Good morning and welcome. Welcome to our spiritual home, the Unitarian Universalist Church of Tarpon Springs. My name is Betty Lou Cummins. Okay. Good morning and welcome. Welcome to our spiritual home, the Unitarian Universalist Church of Tarpon Springs. Okay, well, you've been thoroughly welcomed. I'm so glad. My name is Betty Lou Cummins. I serve on your board of trustees, and today I'm also serving as worship associate. I am a silver-haired senior citizen lady of Northern European ancestry. I like to think I'm of Midland height and Midland weight. We want to acknowledge that here at this church, we are on the lands ruled by Spain for 300 years, from the 16th to the 19th century, and then briefly by Great Britain. But before that, the lands belonged to the Tocobaga and Seminole peoples. We are a church of many welcomes, and we offer a warm welcome to all of you. We are a community in relationship to promote spiritual growth, social justice, and the arts, through a framework and vision of a liberal religion. We are an active community where everyone is invited to participate in all of our activities. To learn more about our events, our church calendar is on our website, uutarpon.org, or we'd be happy to talk with you after service during coffee hour. For those present with us in the building, we have connection cards available in the pews. They look something like this. Near the hymnals. If you fill one out, we will be able to keep in touch with you. There are also small cards, like this, to write any joys or sorrows that you would like to share with us if you prefer to write them. Our guest speaker today is Erin Powers. They are a religious educator and aspirant for Unitarian Universalist ministry living near Tampa. They are inspired by our interconnectedness woven throughout humanity and the greater living world. We are so glad to welcome Erin's return. The presentation today is titled Lesson from Lichen. Our music today is provided by our music director, Bonnie Whitehurst. Again, welcome, and we're so glad you're here. Our opening hymn is number 207, Earth Was Given as a Garden, in the gray hymnal.
Earth was given morning. Thank you for having me again. My name is Erin Powers. My pronouns are they, them. I am a white, non-binary, femme-presenting person with rainbow glasses, some dark, short, somewhat unruly hair, wearing a pinkish and bluish floral button-up. And I am delighted to be here with y'all again. And our opening words are by a friend and colleague, Elizabeth Mount. From our very first breath, we reach out. Co-regulation, not self-regulation, is our nature. We find our cues from the sun and the moon, from each parent and caregiver. We find our place in this great turning planet by turning to one another. Generation to generation, we awaken to the dawn and fall asleep at the evening's end. Our life's journey is part of something greater, something simple, something divine. A flame cannot be lit without a spark. A life cannot begin without the air. And we cannot begin to find ourselves without love. May we reach out to one another. May we offer love and nurturing care. May we join together in celebration of the interdependence of our lives. In this spirit, let us worship together.
We hope to light our chalice today with these words by Brian C. We will light our chalice today with these words by Brian C. Lee. We light our chalice as a symbol of the light within us and the life that flows through the world around us. It is our beacon as we search for truth. It is the warmth in our hearts for love, and it is the energy that propels us to action. May we be kindled by our time together. I brought matches. Technology. Ha. Okay. Will you join with me in reading our covenant? We strive to look for and encourage the best in each other as we root toward justice, peace, and love for both ourselves and the world. We will seek understanding, reconciliation, and a return to covenant. We now have our hymn number 123, Spirit of Life, in the gray hymnal.
Our story today is called Hare's Gift. A long time ago, before there were people on earth, there were many different animals that lived all over. Some of the animals lived in the grasslands, but they did not live too close to each other because they thought it was best that way. One such animal was hyena. He decided that he needed a new home, and so he found the perfect place. It was far away from all the other animals, near sweet water, and protected by the shade of a tree. Hyena wanted the best home possible so that everyone that saw it would know how important he was. And so he had the best builder in the land build it and decorate it for him. It took a whole moon's time to build, and when it was done, Hyena threw a party to show it off. He hired the best chef in the land to cook the food, and there was so much it took a week to cook it all. Hyena invited everyone to his party, and everyone came and greatly admired his fine new home and the delicious feast. Everyone, that is, except Hare. This made Hyena mad. The next morning, he decided to pay a visit to Hare. "Why did you not come to my party last night to see my fine new home?" asked Hyena. "Your fine new home? I hear that it is nothing special, just another hole in the wall, and I'm sure your party was quite dull." "You are just jealous because you do not have such a grand home," said Hyena. "I could have one if I wanted one," replied Hare. "Oh, you think so? Let's see then. I challenge you to build a home better than mine in half the time. In 2 weeks, I will return to see your home, and I expect to go to the best party ever given. If you can't provide these things that you've bragged about, I think I'll be wearing a hair coat come winter." And off he stormed. "Boy, I've really put my foot in my mouth this time," thought Hare. But then, because he was always a tricky fellow, he came up with an idea. He visited all his animal neighbors and asked them to help him build a fine new home. If they did, he promised them 2 great gifts when they were done. Now, all the animals wanted to see what these great gifts were going to be, but some of the animals did not want to leave their families. So Hare told them to bring their families too. And so first, all of the animals built huts for their families, and then they went to work building a big home for Hare. And because so many animals worked on the home, it was easily built within 2 weeks, which was a good thing, because Hare was too busy lying around and tapping out beats on a log, rather than help build his home. And so when Hyena returned, he found a home that looked a lot like his own. And he asked Hare what made his home better. Hare said, "I don't just have a home, I have a village. Now all my animal friends live close by, and it's easier for us to visit and have fun together." This was Hare's first gift, the village. Hyena had to admit that it was very nice to have a community of friends nearby. Then Hare invited everyone to the party. Because there were so many in the village, no one person had to cook the whole feast. Everyone brought the dish that they made best. The food was truly as delicious as what Hyena served, but Hyena wanted to know what made it better. Hare said, "Just wait," and began to tap out on the log the rhythm he had been working on while others built his home. The beat was very catchy, and pretty soon, others started tapping it out. And then before you knew it, everyone was making music and dancing. Hare said, "This is my second gift, the drum." And now, Hyena had to admit that Hare's party was better because of the drum and the music and the dancing. And with all of the eating, music, and dancing, though, and with all of that, Hyena really wasn't disappointed. And even though Hare and Hyena liked to challenge each other, the goodness of Hare's gift of community and music was something that they always agreed on. And with that, our story ends.
Our UU community and its work is possible because of the generosity and love of our congregation. Your gift makes a difference. You may mail your offering, go to our website banner and click on Donate, or place your offering in the collection plate. The gifts of the congregation will be most gratefully received.
Inch by inch, row by row, from below till the rain comes tumbling down.
Thank y'all for that. That was when my oldest was little on a video that she watched a lot. So. But first, let's take a moment of silence together. Today's reading is by Monica Jacobson Tennyson. What is it that calls you here, that calls you onward, that calls you inward, that leads you homeward? What is it that gives you the power to make that change, to ask that question, to take that journey? What is it that says you have done well, that asks you to learn more, that brings you to stillness, that holds you up in hard times? It is relationship. It is the beating heart of our faith. It begins when we share this hour, our truths, this air, our hearts.
Walking through the woods, saw a mighty landslide. This disturbs their
Thank you all so much for that and for the perfect musical selections from Bonnie, as always. So this summer, as I do many summers, I was driving myself and my kids up to the mountain, our UU Retreat Center in Highlands, North Carolina. When they were younger, we often listened to audiobooks together. And now that they're older, we are often each listening to our own books or music. So on this drive, I listened to the book, Entangled Life: How Fungi Make Our Worlds, Challenge Our Minds, and Shape Our Futures by Merlin Sheldrake. This book had been recommended by colleagues, and the long drive was the perfect time to dive into it. And knowing that I'd be spending a week immersed in the natural habitat of the mountain, this seemed like a fitting read. And although I confess, I'm still not done reading the book because I keep re-listening to the early chapters. This book is so rich and so layered, which really only makes sense when you consider how fungi impacts every facet of life on Earth. And while much of its existence is unnoticed by humanity, without it, we quite literally would not exist. I'm always so inspired by the relationships and the synchronicity among ourselves as humans and the greater living world, and the lessons that we can learn through these observations. And this book has opened me up to a whole new realm of appreciation for the ways in which fungi and the mycelium network from which it grows impacts our living. As Unitarian Universalists, we proudly proclaim our awareness and reverence for the ways in which we are in interdependent relationship with the greater living world. Personally, I am always amazed at the multitude of these interconnections and the parallels that exist among us. There is an infinite quality to the ways in which we rely on and are supported by our greater living world. From the microscopic to the enormous, we owe our existence to it all. And I find it all so incredibly fascinating and beautiful. Sheldrake's work in Entangled Life centers around the relationships between humanity and the more than human life of fungi and the organisms that live and grow from mycelium networks. This book is overflowing with insightful parallels between humanity and these organisms. It's a fascinating and worldview expanding book. I cannot recommend it enough. When I listened to the chapter on Lichen, I could not help but think of our living faith. Lichen is unlike anything on Earth. It's a result of the joining together of algae, fungi, and often cyanobacteria. And these organisms aren't just growing alongside and intertwined with each other. When they join together, they become something else altogether. They become the unique organism that is lichen. And when this mechanism was discovered by scientists in the late 1800s, there was no language to describe it. And so the term symbiosis was coined by German botanist Albert Bernhard Frank. Symbiosis defines a relationship that is typically collaborative and mutually beneficial, although, as you might expect, there are exceptions. However, the popular understanding of symbiosis is generally positive, and that's how I'll be using it today. Now, back to our living faith. When I consider the symbiosis of algae and fungi, which creates and becomes lichen, I also think about how the Unitarians and the Universalist faiths join together in symbiosis to create and become Unitarian Universalism. And while there are many examples of Christian denominations merging together for similar reasons that the Unitarian and Universalist did, they remained Christian denominations. Unitarian Universalism is unique in that its merger was a symbiotic event. Unitarian Universalism became another faith altogether after its merger. Our roots are Christian, but our faith today is Unitarian Universalism. And our faith today comes from two distinct and separate Christian denominations. Unitarianism came to be during the Reformation of the early to mid 1500s and was an effort to affirm God as the singular creator of the universe, hence the Unitarian. And as you might the name suggests, Unitarians also rejected the Trinity of God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit. Unitarians honored the oneness of all humanity. And they also rejected the notion of original sin and honored the inherent goodness of humanity. One of our notable early Unitarian ancestors is Transylvanian Francis David. He's known for writing the Edict of Torda in 1568, which, in short, created religious tolerance in medieval Hungary for a short time. This edict is considered to be the first freedom of religion law on record. And Francis David was a proud questioner of religious doctrine and of the search for truth. His legacy lives on today in our principles and values. Universalist theologies have existed since the beginning of the Christian faith. Universalism professes of a world without hell in the punitive sense, and of a world in which our salvation is here on earth right now. Universalists rejected Calvinist ideas of predestination and professed of a God who cared for all of humanity. Universalism proclaims that we are redeemed in the afterlife because all are inherently worthy of God's grace. And when these different but complementary theologies are joined together as Unitarian Universalism, they become something greater than the sum of their parts. Unitarian Universalism is a young denomination, yet our roots reach far back through known human history. And though our roots are Christian, through the symbiosis of joining together, an entirely new denomination was born. A denomination that distinguishes itself by being non-creedal and centering love. A denomination that recognizes the value of wisdom across the globe and embraces learning and growing. And because we are a young denomination born from two separate traditions, and because we value congregational freedom, each Unitarian Universalist congregation has its own mix of Unitarian and Universalist influence. And some congregations lean more Unitarian and some lean more Universalist. And there is representation all along the spectrum of our theologies. And similarly, some lichens are more algae and some are more fungi. And the spectrum of possible combinations is seemingly endless. This diversity is a strength and sometimes a challenge. And as does Lichen, the Unitarian Universalist denomination has grown and evolved to meet the needs of its environment and survived and thrived through innovation. Symbiosis is our strength and a defining character of our faith. And in the same way that the Unitarian and Universalist denominations rely on each other's strengths, algae and fungi also rely on each other's strengths. It has been hypothesized that through symbiosis into lichen, fungi brought algae out of the water and therefore was a key factor in advancing our evolutionary timelines. In the most basic of terms, the symbiosis of lichen works because the fungi provide structure and minerals that the algae lacks, and the algae provides food through photosynthesis. Together, algae and fungi as lichen can do what neither can do alone. Together, they are greater than the sum of their parts. And this collaboration, if you will, is quite different from Charles Darwin's theory of natural selection, or what is commonly referred to as survival of the fittest. He theorized that species evolved because the traits that were most suited to their environments triumphed over less ideal traits. And in many cases, this is true. But lichens showed Darwin that his theory was not universally true. As our understanding of evolution has evolved, scientists have found that at our most crucial evolutionary points, it was collaboration, not competition, that furthered growth and expansion. Lichens demonstrate a multiplicity of truths, and that our search for the truth is never ending. Many things can be true at once. There will always be variations and differences. And lichen shows us that our survival and growth just might depend on being open to a different point of view. Our evolution might depend on doing things a little bit differently. There are few words deadlier to an organization than "that's the way we've always done things." And while there are many lessons that can be learned from lichen, bravely choosing a path that helps you grow and evolve might be one of the most important. Lichen shows us that we can survive and thrive in all kinds of environments when we choose collaboration and cooperation with one another. The merger that created Unitarian Universalism is a shining example of bravely choosing a different path. Our religious heritage is one of heresy and innovation, of choosing collaboration over conflict, of rejecting mainstream ideals in search of what we know is true. And so back to this summer, like many summers, I made that trek up to the mountain in Highlands, North Carolina. And if you don't know about the mountain, it's a UU retreat center, nestled at the top of a small mountain, right on the edge of the Blue Ridge Mountains. They host retreats of all kinds and incredible summer camps. I highly, highly recommend a visit. It's such a special place to myself and to many UUs. And truly, there are so many things that make the mountain special, but one of them is the unique ecosystem there. It is home to an old-growth dwarf white oak forest. The trees are an estimated 400 to 500 years old, and the forest is held in a land trust for protection. A vital part of this precious ecosystem is the underground mycelium network that quite literally holds the mountain together. Mycelium, in simple terms, is the root structure of the fungus. The mushrooms that seemingly appear overnight are the fruiting part. And in comparison to the mycelium, they are a relatively small part of the organism. The fruiting bodies of the mushroom spread spores, which will sprout more mycelium and strengthen the network's reach. And because of this dense and expansive mycelium network, the mountain is bursting with life of mushrooms, molds, fungus, and lichens. And the mycelium network is such a great example of our interconnected interdependence. This network supports ecosystems as it breaks down dead material into usable nutrients and soil. And it carries these nutrients and water throughout the network. And it carries messages throughout the network which share vital information that helps the mountain thrive. And as Unitarian Universalists, we have our own interdependent network, congregational polity. And if a mycelium network holds the mountain together, congregational polity holds Unitarian Universalism together. It is a defining characteristic of Unitarian Universalist churches, and it is something many UUs hold dear. Congregational polity is a contribution from our Unitarian roots. As established in the Cambridge Platform of 1648, congregations have the freedom to govern themselves as they see fit, often beginning with how they title themselves, be it a church, fellowship, congregation, society, or whatever title is chosen by the membership of that congregation. And then expanding into the policies and practices and culture of each congregation. We are a people that value independence and the freedom to shape our faith and spirituality. And this includes the community in which we practice this faith. Those of you here, those who came before you, and those who are to come, will shape this congregation and its culture. This faith community exists because you make it so. And this personal freedom is important, but what about our interconnections? This freedom is not without responsibility. There is another equally valuable part of congregational polity that is often overlooked. It is the responsibility that we have to each other. Congregation to congregation, UU to UU. We are in sacred covenantal relationship with each other. Our interdependence bonds us to each other just as the mycelial network holds together the ground beneath us. And while we are free to explore our own personal spirituality, we are also beholden to each other. And as such, we cannot ignore our call to care for one another, to watch over one another, to support one another. We are called to reach towards each other, just as the mycelium network reaches as it grows. Congregational polity calls us to be in relationship with each other. And when our congregations covenant with our larger denomination, they are also covenanting with each other. Our newly adopted denominational covenant reads, as Unitarian Universalists, we covenant, congregation to congregation, and through our association, to support and assist one another in our ministries. We draw from our heritages of freedom, reason, hope, and courage, building on the foundation of love. Love is the power that holds us together and is at the center of our shared values. We are accountable to one another for doing the work of living our shared values through the spiritual discipline of love. And I love that congregation to congregation covenant is listed first. The larger denomination cannot exist without a strong mycelium network of congregations. And our congregations cannot exist without a strong mycelium network within them and between them. Our relationships with each other are the mycelium network of our faith. And remember, these mycelium networks exist largely underground in the dirt, which means that sometimes the work of building and maintaining these relationships is messy and unglamorous. Sometimes it's not noticed by a lot of people. It can take time, and especially in a place like Florida, where congregations are not close to each other. Even members within congregations are not always close to each other. My family drives 45 minutes to go to church. And our congregations also tend to be smaller than in other parts of our country. But it is in places like Florida that we need each other more than ever. We may have needs that can be met by our fellow congregations and congregants, and we may have skills and resources that can help our other fellow congregations and congregants. Together, we can always do so much more. Together, we create strong, liberal religious communities that nourish and enrich our lives. We need sacred connections to our faith and our people. We need the spiritual nourishment that sacred community can provide. These connections are so important because the symbiosis that created our faith is an ongoing process. We are always in the process of becoming Unitarian Universalism. This is what we mean by a living faith, a becoming faith. When we come together in sacred symbiotic relationships, we become more than the sum of our parts. We become Unitarian Universalists all over again. There is still so much more that we can learn from Lichen. But understanding the immense power of symbiotic relationships is vital to our living, and it is vital to our living faith. We are always, always stronger together, and may it be so.
Our final hymn is Love Will Guide Us, number 131 in your gray hymnal, 131.
Love will guide us.
close with these words by Amy Zucker Morgenstern. May all our hours together be blessed as this one has been. By open-hearted sharing, learning from one another, and making beautiful harmonies together. And may we greet everyone we encounter with the same acceptance and grateful kinship. Until we meet again, blessed be.
Thank you, that was wonderful. Wonderful. I'll never think of Lichen again the same way. Yes. We extinguish the chalice today with these words from Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. We are showered every day with gifts, but they are not meant for us to keep. Their life is in their movement, the inhale and the exhale of our shared breath. Our work and our joy is to pass along the gift and to trust that what we put out into the universe will always come back. And